Hello, hello. Welcome back to Paint by Blunders. We are looking at the Rockgut Troggoth today for the Gloomspite Gitz. I'm going to be doing things a little bit different than I normally do. Going to try and do it a bit more of a speed painty way, really, using a lot of contrast. So let's get to it. For the skin, we're going to use 1 part Frostheart, 1 part Aetheric Blue, and 1 part Lahmian Medium. And we're just going to go all over his belly and his biceps and legs and feet. And we're just going to be trying to be careful where it pools and just spreading it around nicely. And we will be coming in with a second coat now, but we're just really going to avoid the belly and the chest. Anything that we want really light, we're going to avoid, but the rest of it, we're going to sort of darken it up a bit with the exact same mix. And then we're coming in with 50-50 Ultramarines Blue and Frostheart for all of the scales or rocky bits on his arms and the majority of his back. I will be putting 2 coats of this on just to make it a bit richer. I also just dab it to feather in from the light blue to this darker blue. And that's what it looks like with 1 coat. If you want to keep it this lighter colour, then just ignore doing a second coat, but I want it a little bit darker. So I'm going to put a second one on. And you can really start to see, especially now where I'm going onto the back, how that second coat looks so different from the first. One little Brucey bonus, I'm going to use straight Ultramarines Blue contrast to do like the main spine, just to add a little bit more colour variation. So that's the blue all done. We're going to come in now and start looking at his tummy and his chest. And we're going to just dry brush this one. Like I said, this is a slightly quicker for a lot of these elements, and dry brushing is a lot faster than layering. I will show you some layering as well, because you can do it either way. And you can stipple this across his stomach. It lends itself to that if you want to add a little bit of texture. But yeah, standard dry brushing. I've not got into the dry palettes yet. I still use the back of my hand. I don't know why, I've always done it. And as always, just making sure we've got very little paint on the brush, and we're just going back and forward, ideally going across the most raised edges. That would give you the best effect. And now we've done that with the Blue Horror, we're going to come in with Pallid Witch Flesh, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Pallid Witch Flesh, in case you want it's very chalky, but it is very effective. So I'm using it weirdly for the chalkiness, because I want to try and add some texture to his big old rock gut belly. And last but not least, Pro Acrylic Bold Titanium White, just for that very light stipple and final dry brush. And there we go, that's him all dry brushed, but some of the muscles around the chest area, I don't like how it's caught with the dry brushing. It looks a little bit messy, undefined, which, you know, it's one of the things that can happen with dry brushing. So I'm just going to go in and neaten it up with a bit of classic layering, and I'm going straight from the Pallid Witch Flesh stage. Also, just to show you as well that you can use the fast method of dry brushing, and you can easily just neaten things up and smooth things out if you choose, by layering and just blending in that way. And the same thing as always when we're layering anything up, it's just a nice little bit of water in your paint so it's nice and smooth, and just, yeah, picking out those raised edges, leaving the deepest parts that you've put. And after you're happy with that, dark ivory, or you could use Abshanti bone. I'm just going to do toenails, anything bone straps on the weapon and his tusks. And then we're going to try and come in for a nice easy win and use wildwood contrast on the weapon handle. I'm happy using contrast here for just complete ease, and wildwood is so good because I'm hoping to draw the attention to the eye on the big blue troll and what will be a big green crystal weapon, not so much the handle. So next up we're going to do his little skirt and the rest of the brown areas with Pro Acrylic Warm Brown, the Ninjon one. Very, very good paint, I love it. You could easily just use a contrast here if you really wanted to speed up the whole model. If you're planning on doing like the Mega Mob, a nice big chunky unit of 9 Rockguts or whatever, then maybe just contrast this as well, but I really like the warm brown. It's got like a almost reddy tone to it, and I just think it works really well against the super pale blue. Once we've base coated all that, we're going to come in with Lothan Blue, and we're going to start dry brushing all those darker scales that we did earlier. And same as before, very little paint on the brush, like get rid of a lot of the excess paint, and then just go for it. Enjoy it. You can pretty much do it any direction with these scales. We're going to come in, do the exact same again, but slightly lighter, not as heavy, with Blue Horror. Just catching all those raised edges. And it wouldn't be a blunders video without a nice healthy dose of Agrax Earthshade. We're going to be going over anything we did in dark ivory and anything we did in the warm brown. Also, you might notice how you've built some of these trolls. They've got odd little trinkets and such. So I've just used Basilicanum Grey because he's got like a bit of flint. Anything like that, a nice quick contrast just to make your life easier. Striking Scorpion Green and Warp Lightning. We're going to use both of these for the weapon, and we're going to start with a 50% diluted Striking Scorpion. And then once that's dry, we're going to use, again, Warp Lightning with a 50% dilution. And sometimes contrast takes a while to dry. This is one of them. So while it's doing that, I'm going to go in and just highlight up all of the ivory areas we did earlier, and I'm just using the same base coat of that dark ivory just to keep it simple and fast. Next up we have Bright Yellow Green, which we're going to dry brush the weapon with. If you haven't used this colour, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Pro Acrylic smashed it again. Just for a final dry brush, Dawn Yellow, because just using white, it just looks a bit odd. So adding that yellow tone to it really makes it pop a lot more. And again, we're trying to get these trolls done quite quickly. So I'm just going to crudely layer up all of the warm brown. Again, just using the base colour over that Agrax Earthshade wash, just to make it stand out a little bit more, but without putting too much time into it. So at this stage, you could dot the I's, cross the T's, and he'd be fine. On the tabletop, he'd look great. But I'm just going to add a few small little things, which I think could just push him a little bit further and just give him a little bit more character. I have literally dotted his eyes, which is a painful experience. I'm sure someone out there can relate to it. I hate doing pupils. Caraba Crimson. We're going to do it 50-50 with a bit of medium, just to knock it back a bit. And we're just going to go over his spots on his belly, just to add a little bit of point of interest. And we're also just going to use it where the earlobes are, just across the bottom of his nose and under his jaw. The thing I would do with this is do a coat, let it dry, and then just go back and add another coat and add another coat. Just let's make it as rich or as dull as you want, but nice and thin. And that'll do me. So let's get him based. Now I think he looks pretty great for very little time. So the little Brucey bonus, some of you may have noticed he's got a bogey. So I've got a 3D printer and I used some of the clear resin and a little bit of a plastic bag, which I stretch out. I dip it in the resin and then use a little UV torch to cure it instantly. And it makes these little bogies, or you can use it as saliva. But yeah, and that's what he looks like with it jammed in his nose. That's what adds a bit of fun to him. So basing texture paint, I used AK Muddy Fields, I believe it's called, and then just used some pigment powders and threw a grass tuft on. Job done. And once again, if you enjoyed this, if you learnt something, if you feel that you want to implement this in your Troggoths, please do consider giving us a little sub. It really helps. And let us know what you think about this format. It's a little bit different to how I would normally do it. It's a little bit more fast-paced, almost speed painting I'd call it. But yeah, let us know in the comments if it's something you enjoy.